all the way up to kind of Ryan leaving school, so we can get a bit of an idea of who you are, where did you grow up, where do you live, and how did that happen?
Yeah, so born in Oldham, obviously just down the road. Just lived in Chadderton pretty much all my life. My father here was just typical happy upbringing. Big Oldham fan, fishing, golf, the usual things boys are into. So I went to Millshill School, then went on to North Chadderton School, onto the. Then I went into the North Chadderton sixth form. So my childhood is it was just a great one. Football field, like I say,
football,
big time,
But, sport.
Mainly football. But so, like I say, big Oldham fan without many actual memories of Oldham. So
good times going, but just different in terms of the wins and the losses and the draws.
I think, like I say, my glory is of FA Cup games and failed playoffs. So I'm assured we did used to be good because my dad used to tell me every week, but I didn't see it.
Listen, I remember Oldham in the Premier League book, Premier League '94 for the stickers in. So brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I've got one brother.
Older, younger?
He's older, he lives over Halifax, Huddersfield way now, so he's a defector over to Yorkshire, which I make sure I tell him every week. So we went to Halifax away this year, which was disappointing because they won. So he's still an Oldham fan though, so I can't rib him too much.
So really important about, I guess, this next question in terms of more suited towards anybody that's involved with Madlow and of course got kids. I think this next question is really important. So getting to high school before you went to sixth form, what were you in the mind frame of wanting to do before we actually started to get into the direction of what we wanted to do? Yeah,
so I was always very into computer games and that, but it was that time of where so like Windows 95, basically PC building was starting to become big. We had our first few PCs, and it's when you can start tinkering. We used to go to a place over I think Millennium Computers they were called. Is that what they're called? PC Assist. Oh, PC Assist, over that way. But again, that was when you'd get a new computer game and it'd need a new graphics card, so you'd be right back up there. And it was before they were all singing, all dancing. You could just buy one from a shelf. So that really started to like turn my head, and just having a user interface just to click, change things, break things, fix them again. So that was what really started to pique my interest, was kind of the IT and computing side of the world. So.
And then you got into the world of work.
Yeah.
So before we started to kind of get involved of starting the real journey, should we say? But what was that career bit like there, and from you, different jobs up to the point you realised? Yeah,
so I went to North Chadderton sixth form, and it was I was getting to an age where you're going out every weekend, enjoying yourself, and I found my strengths weren't in like academic exams, in essay writing, I was a doer, I was a tinkerer, and I felt like sixth form was just it was uni, you must go. And I had offers for a couple, I think it was Teesside and Sheffield Hallam for different, but again, like you looked into the IT and there was 50, 60, 70 courses, this with this, and it was convoluted, I just wanted to do kind of thing. And then luckily I think it was a flyer come through the door for it. It doesn't exist anymore, which is sad, but it's a college called Xenos IT Academy. We went to an open day in Manchester, but their only campus was in Leeds. And then that was literally like a 9-month, they call it like it was just all intense, but that was literally the side of IT where you'd be opening computers up, fixing them, running servers, a lot of the day before the cloud existed, so it was everything. Obviously all the computers needed to be physical, and I just loved that course. That was in Leeds, so I drove it every day. In my first R-Reg car it was, my 106 Peugeot, 68 miles a day driving there and back my old diesel. So I put in the hard yards there, and from that, because I come out with some like Microsoft exams, some ITIL, some City of Guilds, all that, and then I got offered a job over in Cheadle at a company called Byron PLC, which was life-changing essentially. So that was doing initially going into in the IT office support, so supporting like the office of 40, 50 people, but what Byron did was they operated under the name Match, but they partnered with FIFA. And so they did the FIFA's ticketing, so it was 2009. They said to me, would you go out to South Africa for the warm-up World Cup to go and support the IT systems out there at venues? So I spent 4 or 5 weeks in Bloemfontein there. Just like I say, I was 17, 18 at the time. It was just, yeah, I look back now, I don't think I took it for, I feel like I didn't appreciate it. Like, it was just amazing when I look back now. And then that led into 2010 was the proper World Cup in South Africa, which was, it was phenomenal. So
before we start getting into where you really started your entrepreneurial journey, 2014, 2015, what kind of, you know, where you going on, what's happening in life of Ryan? Because I think sometimes things that happen to us from a personal perspective really play a part in how we transfer that into.
Well, yeah, it is quite a major pivot, because that's obviously I was loving that job, but I met my wife now in 2010, so around the time I went out to the World Cup, so it was 6-7 weeks from home. And I'm quite a home bird, so like as amazing as it was, I did miss home, family, and obviously my new girlfriend at the time. So it was after that. So then the next plan was for the 2014 World Cup, which was Brazil. But as like the time passed, I realised that we did want to start a family and things like that. So that's when I started to look for a few jobs closer to home, because for obviously here to Stockport, half an hour commute on the M60 and that. So it was an amazing job. I still got friends there to this day. It was all, it was an amicable leaving, and then I got a job over kind of Rochdale way. This isn't, not many people know it because it's not on my LinkedIn or even my CV. It's one of them jobs that you just don't talk about. It went horrendously wrong.
It was Rochdale, but
just job, right? I was completely missold the job. I was told I'd be this, I'd be that, you know, I have access to this, and in the end I was put into a team with people much junior than me at the time, considering I'd had 3-4 years experience, and I ended up walking out on it. And I went over to a company then in Millgate, at Keytech. Again, the job was okay, but then I've been there 3-4 months, they explained, we're moving the office to Haydock. It's just like, that was further than where I was in Cheadle. So that's when, again, started to look, and I'd just done a course in a technology called SharePoint. And I applied for a job at Manchester Metropolitan University in the servers and storage team. It was a bit of a speculative application, really, because it was quite a bit more advanced than what I was doing, but yeah, I got that through the interview and that, and then yeah, that project went well. So that had been 2012, 2013. So that was aligned of then my first daughter was born, but just before that was I did lose my mother. She passed away just before Lexi was, about 6 months before Lexi was born, to bowel cancer. So that was a real tough couple of years in life. But then my daughter kind of come along, that was something to focus on. But then that was when the journey starts that's when the social media journey starts.
So all this madness, just if we compound it together a little bit, in terms of, because I want to get into the journey now. But,
yeah.
You know, we've had a lot of different jobs.
Yeah.
Not really gelling with anything, not really getting into the culture, sick of being messed about, being promised this and being getting by. Met with your partner, really focused on, you know, want to build a family.
Yeah.
You know, losing mum, really tough time, I think, for anybody, when we lose somebody close to us.
Yeah.
For the first time,
yeah.
I think that's a really iconic part of life.
Yeah.
And I think you really start to build a little bit of different level of resilience there.
Yeah.
And then your daughter coming along, I think, you know, give you that different perspective. And definitely as a dad to a dad, I think when your first child's born, you kind of walk into the hospital, the sky's blue, you come out, it's like yellow, it's a different world.
Yeah, literally.
And you get a different level of motivation. So that all of that compounded together, you thought, screw this, I want to do something for myself.
Yeah, but not exactly at that point. This way, it's like I say stumbled into it, but it's how it evolved from kind of this point. It was so 2013 she was born. She had an undiagnosed dairy allergy. It was way before intolerances was as big as they are now. Like you walk into a restaurant now, they say any allergies, first thing they ask you. So it was way back then. So she just cried constantly, they put it onto colic, the usual things they say, but essentially she was allergic to the milk we were giving her. We'd know, and we didn't realise at the time, so we literally had long nights, long days, long nights, so that was when we were just up, I know you're up anyway with a baby, but it just felt we was up all the time, and it was kind of, I used Twitter in my personal life to follow football and that, and then I was up late one night, I think Sky Sports Sky Sports was on, and it was if you're into football, they do the Memories programme, so it'll show stuff back from the 90s, 94, and so it'll show highlights from the Premier League of like Alan Shearer, Beckham, things like that. But then midway through the programme, it'd pop up like Alan Shearer breaks the English transfer record, and it was something like £9 million, and it's like, wow. But when that headline popped up, I kind of like Googled it, and those early articles, they still kind of exist deep into Google. So, and Sky Sports always had a nickname of Slow Sports News, because everyone's in the know. I already knew that, so people would reply, oh, this is slow news. So I set up a Twitter account that was called Slow Sports News with the Sky Sports logo, but doctored Sky to say slow. And then I'd start posting headlines that were kind of relevant to what was going on in the real world. So it was like, I think when Rooney was leaving United or Ronaldo, but you'd post Rooney renew his contract, but it'd be an article from like 2 years ago. But because you could just repost it, and the people just started like tagging their mates, and then people would reply, look at the name, and then people just started following that account. It was something really kind of fresh and new, and people just loved winding each other up with it. And when you got people to fall for it, it was a really good. But because it was the age of the parody account, as you kind of say. So there was people, it was like Mario Balotelli was at Man City, and he was setting off fireworks in his bathroom and all that. So people were setting up like Mario Balotelli parodies. There was when John Terry, there was stuff like. So it was just the age of like, that was what Twitter kind of started out with, or the network I got into. So that got about 80,000 followers from that, which is crazy, really. You sat in your...
That's just from messing about a little bit.
Yeah, because I think Twitter was in its infancy, so it's in that organic growth period where these platforms, they have these spells where they show your account to everyone, and then so from that, but then within this space, it was weird. You start finding there's probably only about 10 or 12 people running these accounts, and like they have multiple accounts and things like that. So you start talking, you start networking, and again, my wife always called it a weird underworld because you never actually met them or anything. It was only through the direct messaging, and you'd grow by, say someone had 100,000 followers, you had 80, they could retweet, so you'd get exposed to their followers, and it was just a real way of organic growing, and that was one that kind of, then I did another one that was around 2014, Jeff Shreves. It was always an ongoing joke on FIFA. Someone would break the leg, and Jeff Shreves was the pitch side supporter, and he'd always be on FIFA, he'd say, yep, I think he'll go walk it off, cheers Jeff. And it's like, he's broke his leg, he's not going to walk that off. And again, it was a big meme at the time. Yeah. I made an account from that. And then that evolved into another one I made. I just kept making them, and when Angel Di Maria was at Manchester United, and he absolutely just hated Manchester. He was locked in his hotel, and he just used to trudge off the pitch and that, and that was called Angry Di Maria. And again, it was just tweeting in, it's a bit crass now when you look back, but in like pidgin English, a bit like, you know, as if you're this angry footballer who hates being in Manchester, hates England, the weather's rubbish and that. And again, that was one that got over 100,000 followers, and again, just people would just follow and love it.
So you've now got a couple of accounts, a couple of 100,000 followers across the lot.
Yeah.
What are you starting to think now?
Again, still like, it's still a hobby, like still, because even then, like, you had a few companies that were kind of monetising, but it still didn't look like it was any kind of viable future. It still just was a complete hobby. But then the one that really took off was one called Deluded Brendan. It was Brendan Rodgers in his last tenure at Liverpool when they blew the league. You know, Gerrard, this don't slip and all that, and he ended up slipping, and then they lost the last three games and blew the title. But it was all the time. Brendan Rodgers was constantly. He was compared to David Brent, you know, the Ricky Gervais, the comedian, with all these philosophical quotes and that. And you just only have to Google the Brendan Rodgers top 10 quotes, and so it was just an account of making up stuff like that. And I think they lost 1-0 away at Hull, like they shouldn't be doing. And I put, at least we only conceded one, you know, but like putting a positive spin on everything. And that was the one that exploded, that 300,000 followers that had. So that brought my network up to about 600, 700,000. And that was when there was a few. I think one of the questions is about like your Stephen Bartlett's and your social chains and things like that. But that was when a few of these companies were just starting out, and they were trying to purchase these accounts off me. They offering me jobs to work with them. But again, at that time, I had because the job I got at MMU in IT was a nice gig. It was a good salary, good because it was public sector, so you get the holidays, you get the working hours were a couple of hours less than my last job. It was a good gig and I was enjoying it. I was working with a great team there. I was enjoying what I do. This was all kind of a side thing, but it was like Deluded Brendan that really started to like turn my head as such, because it won in 2015. It got nominated for in the Football Blog Awards as Best Accounting Social. So I got invited to go along and it won. So I'm there going up collecting this award, completely anonymous, like. So it was all weirdly under the radar. So yeah, it was like living two lives essentially. It was a real weird one.
So all this is coming to happen now. So you've got 3-4 accounts, 700,000 followers. You've got the day job. You've got some awards coming in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
So you're starting to think now, maybe I can make something. You've got some people of competition locally. You know, the Social Chains and the Lad Bibles, the Sport Bibles. Starting to get to know who you are because you're coming onto their domain. Yeah. So what's going through your head now? So
it was So with the personal accounts, it was the big era of the betting accounts. You know, the Bet365, Betfair, Ladbrokes, when they went through the big thing of, you know, if they still do it now, but it's a lot more regulated with all the Gamble Aware and things like that. But that was before these regulators really existed. So it was. You get your first £10 free bet if you sign up. But what they were doing, the bookies, was using accounts like ours, because big football base. You could subtly tweet, you could use it at any angle and just say, "I'll sign up here," and you know, to get your free bets and things like that. But then what that would do, you'd become an affiliate for them. So you'd get like a fixed amount if they signed up, and then you'd get something like 10% if they lost. That's all been like fully regulated and ruled out now with all the Gamble Aware. But so from that I was making about £400 a month just on the side from that, and it did get to the point where I had to register myself as a business, you know, to declare it. But again, it was still only a side hobby. My wife did the books. It was still nothing that would have been matching. It didn't seem to have enough long term in it, you know, to think this could be my career. But it was again like your Sport Bible, Social Chain. They all contacted me, offering me a job to work with them, to work with their network. But the caveat was, they hired you, but then they owned your Twitter accounts. Yeah. So essentially, they could hire you, sack you in 3 months, and you're left with nothing, and you're then left without a job, left without. So
you were probably in this process now, enjoying what you were doing. Yeah. But because it weren't making you enough money, you couldn't give up the day job, right?
No. Yeah.
So the question you started to ask yourself now is, how do I monetize this? Yeah. Because I really would love this to be my gig.
Yeah, that was it. And
take us on that journey about how did you start to think about, all right, how do I turn a couple of £100 here's the big one, into something a bit more serious? Yeah, because like I say, it was getting to the point of, it was because there were football focused accounts, it was weekends and evenings. So I think one, like, my wife still laughs about it to this day. We were over in Chester for a day out, and it was Liverpool had lost a big game, and we're driving home, and I dictated the tweet to her, to tweet as I'm driving, because I needed to get the tweet out, and she tweeted it, and she was like, oh, and she couldn't believe, but that was the point where it was affecting our life a lot. You know, I couldn't even have a day out with the family without having my phone and tweeting, and my dad will tell you, I don't think much has changed now, but it was, like I said, getting to the point I couldn't, like, in an evening, you couldn't relax, couldn't watch a film, because you think, oh, like Real Madrid are playing Barcelona tonight, I need to get a tweet out about this. So it was getting to a point where something needed to happen. It was becoming beyond a hobby, but not quite sustainable. So it was, from this network that we built, there was two other people, they were doing it full time, a guy called Matt and Andrew, who ended up being my business partners. They were monetizing again heavily in the gambling industry. Like Matt had a horse racing tips page. So what he was doing, it was like he was getting in 100 sign-ups a day and all. And as you can see how quickly suddenly we had like 7 or 8 pages, 2 editors. Suddenly that's a team of 10. So we quickly kind of expanded from that first office. We moved down the corridor. We got another set of, again, that we soon come out of that. And all these pages are now under the brand name of the company now? Yeah, because we were set up as It's Gone Viral Limited for a number of years, up until 2020, yeah. So
But again, so this was all, we were monitoring that heavily on the videos, but at the same time, we're like, well, we're doing this. Can we set up as an agency to do this for others? Because that's what, again, I don't want to say what we copied our business, but that's what your Lad Bible were offering. We're looking at what competitors were offering. It's like, well, we're doing it ourselves. Why can't we do it for others? Because we've got the in-house expertise in that knowledge, and that's when we started to come up against barriers a little bit of It's Gone Viral Limited. It was a bit of a weird business name. Like we were reaching out. I think we hired someone in just, I think, on a temporary contract to just outbound, and they showed us. They sent hundreds of emails, calls, and they were just getting no nibbles. And it's like we had an estate of like 7-8 million followers here. Like, why are we not getting any nibbles? And it kind of come apparent that the name, it was when you were contacting people. Oh yeah, we're a Facebook page that also. It was a bit like wishy-washy. It's like, what are you actually offering? So we sat down and said, look, we need to move into Manchester. And because I was a lot more, I was in the office every day in Rochdale, so I said, look, I'll do that, but I don't want to spend my time constantly driving to the other side of Manchester and that. So, because I always think of like when you used to work at MMU, like you were on the tram every day. So it's just started to look at office locations and like stuff on Spinningfields and Deansgate, and the lease quotes were coming up ridiculous. It's like this can't happen, really, you know. So we were stuck a little bit. We knew we needed to move location to get the better talent to grow, but we couldn't quite afford it. We did potentially look at loans and that, but we didn't, because at this point, it's interesting, we'd fully bootstrapped ourselves. We never taken a penny. It was all organic growth, and it was something we didn't want to do. So then it was when at Ancoats, 20, so Ancoats, opposite Wing, you know, off Oldham Road. There's still building work there now, but it was going through a massive renovation project, and it was the old Beehive Mill, the old Sankey's nightclub, Beehive Mill. We got shown round, and it was best of both worlds there. The lease was like, it was a good 30-40% cheaper than that side of, I always say Great Ancoats Street, there's a massive divide, even with the car parking. It's £3 there, you go over to Great Ancoats Street, it's £6. So there's the Great Divide, I always used to call it, but so the rent was a lot cheaper, and kind of commuting wise for me, just straight down Broadway, Oldham Road and in. So it ticked all the boxes, and for everyone in Manchester, it was easy to commute to.
And this helped you build the model now to start getting some really good partnerships with people like AO.com.
Yeah. So I think the biggest one that we got was Swan. There's the kitchen appliance company Swan. We worked a lot in the film sector with like Disney, with we did. I can't think of the film, but because these press junkets were quite a viable thing, you know, when you interview the celebrities and that, but that led to a bit of a world of where if the film wasn't quite as big, they can pay you to feature the film kind of thing. So, but again, just being in, just as soon as we moved to Manchester, like I think when I left in 2022, and we'll get there, but they were looking to move again to another building across the road because, well, we had the pandemic, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute, but. But soon as we got there in back end of 2019 was it was game changing. Suddenly we're interviewing people started to come over from Lad Bible, from Social Chain, from Unilad. Because they were going through like a lot of big companies. They were going through a lot of cultural change and that, and we were the upcomer. So we actually attracted quite a lot of their big talent, which was great. And they already had their contacts. They already had their. So yeah, I thought that was a...
Business competition starting to get a bit more serious now.
Yeah.
Losing some good people because they're putting too much structure, maybe a bit too much red tape.
Yeah.
Becoming a bit too rigid.
Yeah.
And these kind of people were really creative, really kind of flexible, wanting to be a bit more dynamic.
Yeah.
And you were just catching them. You were just literally catching these ones in. So 2019, big office move. Starting to get some better partners now. Starting to build some credibility. Yeah. Good revenue stream starting to build. Yeah. And the pandemic came.
Oh, it did. It did.
So it just felt like the wind in the sail had just been removed, right?
Yeah.
For all of us.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We were. So you get towards. We pivoted, but I think we were in a real good space of. Because we went through the initial. We come through Feb like everyone did, still fobbing it off. You get to the start of March. We were in the office in March. We were making jokes about it, still not realising the severity of it. I think I was actually in the video. It was in a hazmat suit and like a breathing mask we bought off Amazon for like £5, and you sat at the desk typing. It's like when someone sneezes in the office, because I think people didn't realise what was coming. And I know the experts, we thought it was like, another Ebola, another swine flu, another that would just blow up. And then it got to the point I remember the phone call, my phone went, and it was my daughter's school at Mills Hill. They'd shut 2 days before everyone else did. And I went, whoa, right, something's going on here. Like, so at that point, again, emergency meetings and with the board, and we made the provision of, I think a couple of days passed and we realised Boris was, because like everything with that pandemic, they'd never tell you, but it was like, Boris has an announcement in 2 days' time. Well, we know what it's going to be. So, but we all in the office had these, the IMAX, the all-in-ones, big things. So we just organised everyone getting either taxis home, or I'd run a couple to people's houses, because again, we thought it'd be a couple of months, but if you can still work from home. So that was, and then suddenly I remember just looking on this empty office, just like it was just eerie like that, and then so then it hit, everyone was at home, we'd have our daily meetings, and yeah, it was, but then it was going okay, because what especially the video editing team, they could do it remotely essentially, because everything was online. They'd download them, edit them, so this was fine. And then we woke up, I think that's March, and then we woke up in April to a message on our pages: Facebook is limiting monetization. They called it for limited originality, but it was their income streams had stopped, so they can't pay partners to, they'd lost their ad, because like the whole world, like you say, the markets were crashing, and that was that. I remember 8 o'clock in the morning, sat at my wife's dressing table, because on top of this, we were having our house. In February, they ripped the house off, we haven't extended. So we had half a house. So I was having board meetings in my daughter's bedroom, at my wife's dressing table, and it was, so we, at that point, we made some calculations, and I think we had good 3-4 months where we could cope, but we needed to pivot, and start. So I think I remember getting in touch with Facebook and saying to them, what does this limited originality mean? Luckily, they did get back to us and they said, you've got to, videos now can't just be repurposed. You can't just get someone's video and post it out. It's got to have meaning. It's got to have. So what do you mean by it? They said, well, it needs social commentary. It needs someone explaining what's going on. And people still hate it to this day. You see the comments, but it was Facebook's way of box ticking. So we did. So we had started to hire presenters at that point. It's weird to hire within the pandemic, but we needed them. We went freelance initially. So a viral video would come on, but they'd do the voiceover and they'd give a summary at the end. And then that started to clash with Facebook over the months. They claimed that was then original. And then 3 months later, when things started to settle down, the monetization come back on, thank God. So they claimed it was limited originality, but we still think it was the pandemic. It wasn't a coincidence they turned off monetization for 3-4 months until the world settled down. So
what did you need to do with the business in order for it to keep moving forward and to keep scaling? Because this has happened now, you kind of got the determination that this is...
Well, believe it or not, on the side of that, because of the pandemic, social media consumption went up, because that's all people were doing, and they were making all new content. I remember one of our biggest videos, it was Jimmy Fallon featured it. Someone, it was a garden fence, they flattened it like that, and they were having a drink with the neighbour across, in the middle of the pandemic, and yeah, and we... This is another topic almost entirely. It's called video licensing. You can represent that video for someone. If your video is going viral, you get companies who represent you. Again, not necessarily a new model, but it was something we could provide because we had the contacts. So, but it's all a massive race of who speaks to them first. And I remember, I just messaged this person, and they replied back and sent them the spiel and the terms and conditions, and they signed up. So there was things like that were doing well, and like someone like a Jimmy Fallon would pay 500-600 quid to feature that 10 seconds on the show, because it's a huge network. So it was this point, again, another arm of the business appeared, like, if they're paying wow, okay, we're sat on hundreds of thousands of videos now, because one thing we're posting viral videos since, 2017, people would send you their videos to the inbox. 90% were rubbish. Like, I always joke, everybody thinks their child's the funniest, everyone thinks their dog's the funniest, and they're not, but then every now and again you do get some nuggets. So there was a mixture of, so then we had Comey at this point, and then we come up with a new name called Ark Media, and it was supposed to be like the Ark, Noah's Ark, where all our videos would sit in, and then that become another revenue stream of you can get people licensing the videos, people, because it flowed in from because our video editors were constantly researching and finding these viral videos, editing them up, and then they could pass them on to the licensing team, who could then license them for them and then go and sell them. So it was we were making money from them being out on Facebook, then making money from companies buying them. So it was, so from the pandemic, there were some eerie times, but other opportunities did.
And were you still able to run companies' social feeds for them, because you were running some pretty good social feeds?
Yeah, I think a couple of them paused it, as like I say, they always think the first thing to go when you're struggling is marketing and advertising, isn't it? So that was, but then because social media consumption went up, we carried on ploughing on and running. I think we furloughed only 2-3 people because we decided to give it another couple of months of. We can't stop running these pages, because the thing with social media, if you stop running a page, they lose favour with the algorithm. They don't. So we carried on ploughing content out. So the pages carried on growing, which was great. And then when the green light for monetisation came back on, we were possibly earning more, because some of these big videos were back in the mainstream, and because consumption went up. So it was a bit of it was a good industry. It was weird, once a good industry to be in the pandemic, because a few of the digital online spaces actually did better with people all bored at their home scrolling the phone. Yeah.
So at this point now, you're going through the pandemic, you're getting through. So before you exit, what sort of size, just to give people a frame in the room, what sort of size business are you? What sort of turnover, people?
So in 2021 we did 2 million turnover. We'd always, but one thing we'd done for a while, so, well, from day one we did reinvest everything to keep the growth going. Still at this point we were bootstrapped ourselves. So that was, then obviously I exited in October 2022, so I won't have seen the final turnover. I think we were on our way to double that, I'd say. I'm sure it'll be out at some point, but so that came about of, as I've talked quite, I talked about our Rochdale years. It was of the point where it was boomed after the pandemic, and you realised, but it was weird going back into the office of, we'd actually hired people there was people we hadn't met for like months. We'd hired them, I'd done interviews like on Zoom and stuff like that, and other departments had hired theirs. You hadn't met people, and then people started to come back after the pandemic, but then from that we'd started to really ramp up again. So we were hiring at like a rate of 2 or 3 people a month, and it started to get to the point where I wasn't enjoying the day-to-day like I did when we were smaller, because I loved that hands-on side when I was making the memes, discussing the brainstorming ideas, just stuff like that. And it was, I think we sat down, it was kind of October 21, it was like Andrew, because at this point there was Andrew and Matt. Matt had taken a bit of a back seat at this point. A guy called Sam came in as he was non-executive at the time, but he had experience with a company called Urban Splash, and he just led them through a massive investment course with the Japan Modular Housing. So we brought him in to discuss, were we happy plodding on, or did we just want to kind of go for it? And that was when all the discussions happened, and we talked about bringing investment on. And it was where me and Matt at the time said, look, if the offers are right, we don't mind like giving our shares up for the investment for you guys to, because Sam and Andrew are two very, I say younger, they don't have no kids or anything just yet. Well, one's got one on the way, but they're like single-minded younger bit entrepreneurs, so you could tell they wanted to drive it forward. And I thought, well, I'm happy where it's got to. I mean, if the offer was right, and especially just coming back through the pandemic, as good as it was, you still always felt like you was one turn away from disaster. So I said, if the offer's right, and luckily one came in that I got what I wanted from it, and you know, you kind of take the security of getting out of that like potentially volatile world of the digital online space. But yeah, it was just, and the business had got to a size where it was massive at that point, and I didn't feel my company as much as it used to.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Do that transition. I think anybody that's started a business and grown it, you go from you are the business
Yeah.
to you're a part of the business.
Yes, yeah.
To I'm running the business, and it's those three stages that I think you either fall in or out of love with.
Yeah.
That help you make decisions of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So look, really, you've fallen into the right section of what your business is doing, because that can sometimes drive. Is it time to get off the merry-go-round?
Yeah, yeah.
But what are the highlights and lessons do you think you've picked up from Ryan that serve you well today?
I think some of the highlights was like, I think we pride ourselves on finding the gaps, finding the niche, you know, that's where our major growth came from, you know. That's how I started with, because parody accounts were existing, but I did one that was Slow Sports News that didn't exist. And I think, like, we're making a name like It's Gone Viral. We were taking off at the back of a trend of a trendy word. So yeah, and I think that they were my highlights when you'd make a piece of content that I think our biggest video, I think it was on Ultimate, is that it did 100 million views, and when you break down 100 million views, like, it's crazy. And it was a toenail, an infected toenail, and 100 million people decided they wanted to watch. It was from a podiatrist company, provided it to us, and then one of the team edited it, and it's grim, but yeah. But I think one of the
It tells you all about people, isn't it? They love looking at grim stuff.
But I'd say one of the proudest moments I had, and it was in the days before copyright on Facebook, so you could get away, like, now you couldn't post a video with music in, because with their AI instantly picks up. This is owned by Sony. Yeah. But again, before it was Ed Sheeran, the song "Shape of You." I can't remember what there was a phase of people putting like Thomas the Tank Engine over like Beyonce dancing, and it looks weird, dude. It did so like stuff like that. So I did one. It was the Teletubbies. I don't know what watching with kids. I can't remember, but I put Ed Sheeran "Shape of You" over it. And they looked like they were dancing like that, and Ed Sheeran's official page shared it, 16 million he had at the time, and he shared it going, oh, I should have used this as the music video. And the graph of growth that day just went bang like that, and it was that was one of the highlights that still sticks out to this day, when my jaw dropped and like.
How do you get that brave? Because I think people in the room sometimes we create a post and we go, shall I click it? Shall I not? Because it's about, is it going to be right? Yeah. Are people going to say something? How do you get that past that point of going, I don't give a shit, I'm just going to post it?
Was it something like that? Yeah, I guess something like that. I get when it's something a bit controversial, you think, oh dear, but something like that was just a bit of fun. And
do you cringe? You like post it and then put your phone down and say
there was a lot of that, especially when I used to manage the content. I used to do the staff's editing, because if a video didn't have so many views after half an hour, I'd be stressing. I'd be like, but sometimes you just have to leave it. But unless it's controversial, because stuff around doing news story, when a few of the terror attacks happened, I remember Unilad got in trouble. I think it was the Westminster one. They posted basically a picture of the break-in, and it was the wrong what do you call them? The wrong person they used in the picture. A lawyer actually got in touch on Twitter to them and said, that's my client in the picture, and they're currently in Her Majesty's prison. So they can't have done this terror attack. And it was like, they were the dangerous, murky waters, because you're basically, as a social media site growing like that, you're trying to be a media outlet, but you're not quite there yet. So you're not a Mirror, you're not a Daily Express, you're not a Guardian kind of thing. So there was a lot to learn for a lot of companies. So that was one thing I always, as much as you want to be on the nose with breaking news, you've just got to be so careful, because when your reach is that big, one click wrong, and it can shut you down. I think Lad Bible got in trouble. The Prison Break actor, they posted a meme about that his weight gained. He said, when you break out of prison and go straight to McDonald's, and the actor, I can't remember his name, he publicly tweeted slating Lad Bible at the time, saying it's absolutely disgusting, this meme culture, I'm a human being, I'm struggling with my weight. And then they had to send out a big public apology. So it was, again, just, you realise, like, when you've got that reach, that you've got a big responsibility. And I think that's where this whole fake news thing did come in, because it was, you went through a phase, you could post anything you want, and it was dangerous. So, because I think we had a harsh lesson of, when I talked about them articles of like Pierre Aubameyang's car and stuff like that, some photographer got in touch with us and said, that's my photograph. And we oh God, of course, yeah, these people own these, but you have to pay people like Getty Images, and you have to pay, again, that was a learning curve, so it cost us a bit of money, but like I say, no one teaches you these things.
No, well, to be fair, you bored went into the final bits of the questions there, which was what kind of were your key, what mistakes have you made that you took some really key lessons from?
I think we
Images is going to be one, right?
Yeah. But I think that the copyright, the getting information correct, sometimes it's better not to post than post something wrong, kind of thing. And I think the other thing looking back is management. I think early doors, as we got bigger, it was all. I had a great team, don't get me wrong, but there was a couple of instances with a few. I potentially, looking back now, I was too pally, I didn't. If I could look back on myself now, I'd say draw that line of manager, owner, because it got to a point where when you did want to put your foot down, it was, it's only Ryan, that kind of thing, because I'm nice by nature, but when I look back now, I wish I'd have gone, but then I reflect on that, I think it obviously worked, because we are where we are, and finding
a balance, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was, I think, the major things, and I think we did, because I kind of come from a couple of jobs that were rubbish, so you try and make sure you don't, that kind of thing. So it's there probably is more.
Were there times running your business where you just kind of thought, sack this storytelling, can't be bothered? It feels like this is just when sometimes life gets a bit tough. Yeah.
There was stuff, and I think that was when we got to the point of. I was saying about this going forward, about you get to the size of your business, like you don't need to be jack of all trades in HR, an accountant, and start at that point. I remember feeling once like I had to have I rang an HR company about a disciplinary and noted it all down, and at the same time there I needed to do the month-end books, and it was all just a bit like, this is getting too much now. And then you start looking, well, accountancy firms exist, HR companies exist, I know it costs and you need to have scaled it with you, but if you're getting to that point where you're dealing with all this, you don't need to be able to do everything in business. Because I think that's one of the later points of like what I'm doing now with, I got like a D in business studies, and I also remember business studies it felt like a bookkeeping course for, you need, obviously any essential businesses you earn more than but I just felt like I come away from my sixth form, I don't want to do business. Business is boring, I don't want to sit staring at spreadsheets for 20 hours. And it's not like that, it's the creativity side. So that I can't remember if it's what we end on, but that's one thing I'd like to do now is inspire younger people who were like me, who not necessarily bookwormy academic, but creative, like doers. Because I feel like we're probably losing a lot, like when they actually probably got something about them. So yeah.
Good. Look, thank you. I'm going to let the audience here get some time to ask some Q&A. But personally, thank you, mate. It's been a great pleasure talking to you initially, meeting you, and it's been a great pleasure today. But thank you for your journey and your story, and we'll do it with you. We've got 5 or 6 minutes to kind of go through any Q&A from you guys that you want to ask Ryan and put him on the spot from his journey. But thank you for that, Ryan. Any questions, I guess? Any questions?
Can I just ask, Ryan?
Yeah.
Really interesting journey. What do you do now?
So, as of now, in theory, I'm working for myself as such, but it's
You started again on a smaller project?
not as such. What I want to do now is I've done a few school talks. I want to get more into get into like